Every so often in wedding videographer communities online, I'll see this question pop up of, can wedding films truly be artistic? Or are we merely creating montages and event coverage films? I have some thoughts on this. Let's talk about it. Then today I want to talk about symbolism, and is it possible to put symbolism in your wedding films? I feel like I certainly seek out ways to interject symbolism, especially when it's applicable. So you're not just sort of grasping at straws. You want to have stuff that actually has to do with the story and with the couple. So it's easy to talk about this and it could start sounding kind of esoteric. So I think it's useful to have real life examples of what I mean by this. First one, Beta and Joseph. There was a moment in their ceremony where the officiant referenced this idea of the bird of love.
You two, together, you symbolize the bird of love. In order for the bird of love to be able to fly in the skies of happiness and prosperity and success, both wings must work together.
And that was a theme that they presented in their vows. They talk about seeing each other as equals and as co-partners. This was very fortuitous and not something that I foresaw at all. But in the edit, I realized that I had various shots while they were giving their private vows where birds are flying behind them. And I was very intentionally trying to use those shots. There's even a moment where Beta says,
stars aligning, destiny, fate.
There's these birds flying behind him. Maybe it was destiny. Maybe destiny knew that I would use birds as a symbol. And so birds flew by knowing that later on I would use, maybe, I don't know. And it's not hugely significant, but I feel like it's the kind of thing that when you rewatch it, now there's an added element of like, oh, I see this reference. There's even a shot during a montage where things are going pretty fast and there's this random bird in the middle of the wetlands. That was shot not even on the wedding day, that was shot in our story session. There's another moment where I saw these birds flying behind them. And at this point, this was in the portrait session with the couple. And so I kind of had already heard the bit about the bird from the officiant, and I see these birds flying behind them. And so I focus on the birds instead of the couple. And then we had done stuff where they were like doing these, wing things while we were doing a story session. So it's just all kind of worked together. I have this sort of DNA that flows throughout their film of this bird aviary theme. It may seem minor, but to me at least, I think it helps rewatchability because now as you go back and see it and you're like, oh, here, yeah, I see what's happening. There's some real intentionality here. The next example is Justine and Joshua, which is a film that I really, really enjoyed putting together. And I want to caveat by saying this was a micro wedding shot over, I was there for a day and a half. That definitely gives you the ability to do stuff that maybe you wouldn't be able to do on a big, big wedding day because the timeline was way looser and I was able to wander off into the woods and capture stuff. And I think also it's important to note that Justine and Joshua brought a lot of that intentionality, a lot of that sense of presence. And it was very evident in what they said, their vows, especially Justine's vows, where she talks about not taking for granted the fact that we're here, that we have this, that life is short, get everything you can out of it. And I had captured shots of water. There's this little stream that ran nearby where we had the ceremony, and their dog Tamani would frequently go out there, and I followed her. I start using water as this symbol for just the brevity of life, that nothing is stationary, nothing stays in the same place. So I wanted to use a lot of images that just to me exuded this kind of energy.
And although we've traveled to some of the most beautiful places in the world, my favorite memories are those simple moments we've shared together. Drinking French press coffee in the mornings with you and Tamani. I promise to never forget how precious life is. Or how quickly time will fly by.
I give you this ring.
I give you this ring
as a sign that I choose you.
As a sign that I choose you.
Today and tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow.
Always and forever.
Always and forever.
So tip your cup up, throw your hands up, because it's my greatest pleasure to say that by the power vested in me by the state of North Carolina, I now pronounce you husband and wife.
At one point, I even add in the sound of children laughing. I don't know, it felt like it was appropriate.
Always and forever.
Always and forever.
So tip your cup up.
for me, this film moved from just being sort of something artistic to like, it started speaking back to me, which is that I watch it and I'm like, how do I do this? Now I feel inspired by this thing here. The art I was creating started speaking back to me. And then the final symbol that I didn't really intend is Tamani, their dog. I still to this day don't know what she means, but to me there was a sense that she meant something. And there's so many sort of like fortuitous moments where I happened to day of rack focus to the dog, from them to the dog. And then I happened to follow Tamani into this stream that became such a huge component of the film. At the end of the film, there's a sequence where I start using these sort of like live photos and I put them in black and white, and I'm absolutely ripping off The Motorcycle Diaries if you haven't seen that film. And at the very, very end, Tamani pops her head out. And I'm like, you can't plan that. It just sort of like appeared. And sometimes the best things are accidents. And I think just being aware of that, I think the other thing that's important is that we all have lenses, and as filmmakers, we've all got our perspectives. What I put into this film, I think was very applicable for Justine and Joshua, but it's applicable to me. I'm getting older, and this question is at the forefront of my mind. How do I not take for granted the things in life that are so important, the people that are important to me, the moments that are important to me? So these are two instances where I felt like I was able to interject some symbolism, and I hope that it's evident, and I hope that that's something that obviously my couples pick up on and it resonates with them. It certainly resonates with me. These films are, it's not uncommon for me to sit back and like rewatch them because there's a piece of myself in this too. And I think that's inevitable. I think as filmmakers, there will be pieces of ourselves in this. And I think that's a big part of the relationship with our couples, is that as they sort of like have a sense of what we're about and we have a sense of what they're about, is there a good meshing there? Are we complementing each other? And I think that when you find that fit, you can really create some really cool, really powerful, really artistic stuff.